good people. So glad to see you here this morning. If you would rise in body or spirit and come sing a song with us, with me, with all of us. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when home is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when home is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when home is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when home is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Sacramento. And welcome to Sunday service, to our sacred time of worship together. I'm Rosemary Dodd, and I serve this congregation as your ministerial intern. I'm joined in leading worship today by Reverend Lucy Bunch, Worship Associate Kaley Calderon, and guest musicians Cynthia Davis, a former member, and violinist Mary Blanchard. Welcome back, Cynthia. Yay. Whether you're here in person or participating online, we are so glad you are with us. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we welcome you. The mission of our congregation says, we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. Toward this end, we acknowledge that UUSS exists on the occupied ancestral territory of the Nisenan, Southern Maidu, and Miwok peoples. We wish to pay our respects to their ancestors, elders, and relatives, and to affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. If you're on Zoom, make sure to click on the link in the chat to view our order of service. There are so many ways to connect to this vibrant community. Each week, we have tables in our welcome hall where you can get connected and fill out a newcomer's form, where you can sign up to receive our weekly message. You can also do this online on our website. Each week, the blue sheet, who has a blue sheet? Does anyone have a blue sheet? I have a blue sheet. You have a blue sheet. Okay, great. The blue sheet and our weekly message serve as a guide to our various programs. On Zoom today, you can stay after to chat in breakout rooms and get to know one another. Okay, get ready. Here in person today, we have a lot going on. It is Soup Sunday, so stay after the service for lunch and conversation. We also have, at 12 p.m., Rise Up Singing, an all ages, all levels folk music jam. Sing along. Woo! At 1 p.m., a book reading from author and UU family in The End of Good Intentions with David Borofka in room 7 and 8.
Lisa would really like David to stand up.
Yes, David should stand up. Join David at 1 p.m., the author of this book, for conversation and discussion. And coming up this week, we have planting day in our meadow. You might have noticed outside there are many, many plants ready to be planted. Your very generous and wonderful grounds crew has been digging you holes. They have been outside digging holes so you may plant plants on Saturday without the back-breaking labor of digging holes. Let's give them a round of applause. So show up on Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon to plant our plants for our meadow. And Friday. It's twice. It's Friday and Saturday. It will be a delight. And I would be remiss not to mention our incredible auction last night. This room was transformed magically for our Magic of Community auction. Thank you to everyone for making it such a fantastic event. Yay! And it is not too late to help us reach our goal of $40,000. We have over 100 fabulous items still available for online bidding in our silent auction. The deadline for bidding is tonight at 8 p.m. So if there is something you have your eye on or something you didn't know you needed, take a look. For help, you can visit our table during coffee hour or contact auction@uuss.org. Finally, please take a moment to silence your cell phones, your watches, all those noise-making devices, so we can all be present for our service together. This is also your time to light a candle or write a joy or a sorrow on our cards and candles for our joys and sorrows today. Let's settle into this sacred time of worship together.
I would like to invite Theo up to light our chalice this morning. The reading is The Abundance of Our Lives Together by Katie Savani Gelfand. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us.
This is the time for all involved in RE, young and old and middle-aged alike, to gradually make their way out to the Gather the Welcome Hall and off into the next stages of your service as we sing, "You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other one. One foot, and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other one foot, and lead with love.
What a lovely group you make. So nice to be with all of you this morning. It is good to be together. In our time together this morning, and as we go about our lives, let us be grateful for all that makes our lives rich and good. And let us be present and offer support to all those who have challenges and difficulties. We grow our resilience as we learn to live fully with both the joy and the despair, with the challenges and the opportunities. Never forget that this community can be a source of strength and resilience and love. And one of the things that makes us strong is coming together to share our celebrations and our sorrows. We hold in our hearts those who are suffering, those in need of love and comfort, and those in need of the strength of this community. And we celebrate along with those who have joys to share. Let us hear the words of joy and celebration or sorrow from members of our community. I share with you the news that Larry Bowles had a heart attack a couple of days ago. He's in the hospital, he's getting care, and things are looking up. If you know Mimi and their family, feel free to send a card or a greeting in support, and I will be reaching out to them this afternoon. Tina Chizinski's husband, Rocky, was in a motorcycle accident and is in the hospital, but he also is expected to make a full recovery. So we hold these beloveds and their families in our care. We have several joys and sorrows on our cards this morning. The candlelight reflects those joys and sorrows in the hearts of the people that wrote these cards. Ted and Renee Scott Feminella have a joy that their son Theo is blessed to be in Senegal, Africa, with Masamber, I'm not going to say that right, Dia, thank you, taking drumming and They pray and ask us to pray for a safe and peaceful journey. Ian is sharing with us that his 80-year-old father has recently been hospitalized and is struggling. Ask for our wishes for his wellness. Annika shares her sadness that there were no trick-or-treaters at her house. Yeah. On the joy side of that theme, Bridget shares with us that just one word of joy, Halloween. Micah and Maria are sharing their joy that their son Miles is excited to work towards his pilot license. Anita, not to be shared with you, just with me. That's an option on these cards. If you want to let one of your ministers know what's going on, you can fill out one of these cards and write, shared only with the ministers. Celia this morning is remembering her sister Connie and finding ways to honor her memory. We will be celebrating Connie Buckley's life on November 18th, Saturday, November 18th at 2. Is that right? I got it right? Okay. And Kim is hoping strongly for a ceasefire in Gaza and prayers to allow humanitarian aid, food, fuel, water, and electricity to be restored. I know that's on many of our hearts this morning. Let us take a moment to settle into our hearts those joys and sorrows that have been shared and those that remain silent. Let's take a deep breath together. Sometimes in prayer, words just aren't sufficient. And I'm feeling in the world and in my life right now, sometimes there's just too many words. And our hearts have things to say that words really can't express. So let's take a few minutes this morning to share together our embodied prayer. I will walk you through the motions, and then we'll do it together 3 times silently. So we start in a prayer position. It's a time of remembering, centering, finding a space of peace inside of you. And then we reach out our hands in front, whatever level you're comfortable with. We reach out our hands, opening ourselves up, offering our gifts to those in need. And then we reach out even higher, reach out to let that wonderful divine spirit of love flow into us and help us to be channels of love in this world. And then we bring all that energy back into our heart, settling it back in, letting ourselves be filled. So let us do that sequence 3 times in silence. Let us take a moment now in silence. May we find peace and connection to ourselves, to those we love, and to the greater web of life that surrounds and sustains us. Let's take 6 deep breaths of silence. Blessed be.
This statement was written by Unitarian Universalist James Luther Adams for a presentation at the First and Second Church of Boston on May 25, 1975, marking the 150th anniversary of the founding of the American Unitarian Association. It is the postscript to his book, The Prophethood of All Believers. I call that church free which enters into covenant with the ground of freedom, that sustaining, judging, transforming power not made with hands. It protests against the idolatry of any human claim to absolute truth or authority. This covenant is the charter and joy of worship in the beauty of holiness. I call that church free, which in charity promotes freedom and fellowship, seeking unity in diversity. This unity is a potential gift sought through devotion to the transforming power of creative interchange in generous dialogue, but it will remain unity in diversity. I call that church free, which responds in responsibility to the Spirit that bloweth where it listeth. The tide of the Spirit finds utterance ever and again through a minority. It invites and engenders liberation from repression and exploitation, whether of nation or economic system, of race or sex or class. It bursts through rigid, cramping inheritance, giving rise to new language, to new forms of cooperation, to new and broader fellowship. The Church of the Spirit is a pilgrim church on adventure. But the church is never wholly free. It tolerates injustice, special privilege, and indifference to suffering, as though it were not accountable to a tribunal higher than the world's. It passes by on the other side, thus breaking the covenant. In the midst of this unfreedom, the congregation comes together to adore that which is holy, to confess its own brokenness, and to renew the covenant. I call that church free, which does not cringe in despair, but casting off fear is lured by the divine persuasion to respond in hope to the light that has shone and that still shines in the darkness.
In reflection, if you would rise and join in singing in Break Not the Circle 323. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not the circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people need no score of wrong or guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will surely be themselves and stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
Oh, our congregation's mission statement says we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in this world. And we live out this mission in many ways, including by the practice of generosity. Half of every Sunday's offering is given to a local organization working to heal the world. We've just completed our election for 2024 partners, and that will be announced soon. I also want to mention that we're doing a drive to support Loaves and Fishes. One of our community partners is asking for food for their Thanksgiving banquet. And there'll be a table out on the patio where you could learn about the things that you can donate so that we can make a difference for the homeless folks in our community. But this month, the month of November, our community partner is the River City Food Bank, the oldest continuously serving food bank in Sacramento County. Every weekday, River City provides fresh, healthy foods with choices reflecting the cultural diversity of their areas. On the slide and in the chat, you can see how you can contribute electronically or by mailing a check to UUSS, or, miracle of miracles, putting money in the baskets that will be passed. Please give generously in support of this important organization. The morning's offering will now be given and received. Please join me in our unison response. May generosity bless our world, and may gratitude nourish our spirits.
So I am a lifelong UU, and I still think that it is no small miracle that we Unitarian Universalists still gather of our own free will in this religious and spiritual community. I know few groups of people who are less interested in institutions and less trusting of structures of authority than Unitarian Universalists. Yet week after week, we gather together to be in community with one another and to join ourselves together. So what's that about? I have this theory that congregations are a microcosm of the larger world. Each UU congregation holds just a fraction of the larger community of people in its region, yet in that sliver are multitudes of stories, backgrounds, and experiences. In this little world of our congregation, we build relationships, structures, and committees. Here at UUSS, we have nearly 50 groups which meet for fellowship, for justice-making work, or to do the work of the church. Because there is no larger power at hand dictating what Unitarian Universalist congregations should do with ourselves, it's the people in each congregation who undertake that work of our own free will. So we choose how it is we're going to make our decisions, what it is we're going to do with our money, which ministers are going to work here, what our priorities are, and how it is we want to be together. I have to admit that I partly fell in love with UU leadership because of the democratic administrative bureaucracy of this faith. That is not a common story. I was a weird teenager. At 15, there was a national call for youth to come to our General Assembly in Phoenix, Arizona. This was our Justice General Assembly, where UUs all over the country were gathering together to talk about our unjust immigration system. And there was especially a call for our young people to come and gather. And so in my local congregation, we youth fundraised, we sold really bad spaghetti to our congregation most Sundays for about 2 months, and we came up with the money to get on a bus with 50 other youth and drive to Phoenix to be in a room full of thousands of Unitarian Universalists. And it was in that room that I fell in love with the inane democratic processes of Unitarian Universalism. And in that room, many other people were falling out of love with the inane democratic processes of Unitarian Universalism. But I loved it. I went as a delegate from my home congregation. I had a delegate card. I got to vote on issues that felt like they really mattered. I got to be in conversations about values. I learned that we were in charge of our own institutions, not just at the congregational level, but at the national level. And I got to meet other people who were invested in this work from across the country. I learned a lot about Robert's Rules of Order, about sitting in business sessions talking about word choice for amendments. And it all felt empowering and exciting to me. So I loved it, but I think I was really unaware at the time of the harm that can come with this obsession with these bureaucratic systems. I think at that General Assembly, I felt so good and so powerful as an individual, not necessarily as a Unitarian Universalist in a body. I felt empowered. But did we feel empowered? I'm not really sure. Sometimes Unitarian Universalists tend to take our microcosms and fall into a little utopia where individualism becomes the norm. We get too far into the critical thinking that bureaucracy encourages, and we lose sight of our unity. We get into squabbles about words. We lose sight of our goals. Individualism is a toxic American value, which goes back to the roots of colonialism, to the pull yourself up by your bootstraps narrative. It tells us a story about ourselves in which we, individual people, are unable to really make a difference in the world. And that's just too bad. UU minister Frederick Muir called this kind of tendency in UU congregations the I church. He says that in I church, we come on our own spiritual journeys and are surprised when they happen to intersect. Surprised? Individualism is also a facet of white supremacy culture. This is a culture that tells us we must work alone to solve our problems. It puts us into competition with one another in that problem solving. It tells us there's only one right answer. It sets us apart. Individuality can be so healthy. We can still celebrate the rich gifts that we each bring, our stories, our backgrounds, our experiences. There is great joy in individuality. But there is potential for great harm and disconnect from individualism. So what are we to do? As a covenantal faith, we hold no creed in common, no statement of belief or test of faith or claim that there is only one right answer. Instead, our covenant holds the heart and intention of our practices. It's a set of actions, values we affirm, dreams we share, an affirmation of the kind of world that we want to create together. And because we are a faith community, we must know that our lives are bound up with one another's and with the world. Our shared values are not small, not coincidental. They tell us to create a world which is more peaceful, communities which are more connected, and they call us to do this work together, to make our congregations a home for all those who wish to join us. So I love that in our UU congregations, we have a lab where we get to do good work together. And that work ultimately doesn't really look like me with my delegate card, overexcited to argue with people about the language of amendments. That work looks as we imagine it together in our shared values. Here, we get to create an organization that we govern and functions how we want it to. And so what we do here really does matter, and not just as preparation for the real world, for the problems out there, but because church itself is the real world. We have agency here to make things happen, to work together, to change how we do things, to try things and fail, and to forgive each other. So what we practice in our congregation is what becomes possible for us to create in the world. At church, when we make systems which function without harm, which function for liberation, we nourish our own community and ourselves. This is not a self-absorbed task. Our values require this of us, all of us. This is an antidote to individualism, to the belief that any of us are alone in this. When we center justice and equity and give up the familiar and comfortable, we live further into this covenant. Some of you might know about the process going on at the national UU level to update our shared values statement. The Article 2 Study Commission, a multi-generational group of both lay people and ministers, has been working for 2 years to hear from as many UUs as possible and to transform our current 7 principles and 6 sources of faith into one cohesive value statement for the 21st century. In that time, they have spoken to over 10,000 Unitarian Universalists. And just last week, they presented the final draft of the statement, which will be voted on at the National General Assembly in 2024. I'm nervous about that vote. I hope it brings us together rather than drives us apart. And I want to bring one of the values from that value statement they've presented today for us to chew on a little bit. I want to bring the value of generosity, since that's the Soul Matters theme this month. The proposed generosity value reads, "We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality." Interdependence and mutuality. I already see UUSS living into this value and making changes in your processes to center that interdependence. With the recent community partner vote, we used to all vote each year on 12 community partners with whom we split the offering. This structure of voting gave every UUSS member an equal voice, and each prospective community partner could be selected on their merits. This year, the leadership of the congregation decided to continue 6 of the community partners with whom we have strong relationships into 2024, without having the membership renominate and vote on those partners. This is a choice that came out of your strategic plan, a choice to deepen your relationships with those organizations, to deepen commitment and partner with them in trust. This is theology in action. We can cultivate hope for system change by putting stakes in with people doing good work and naming that we are co-stakeholders in that transformation. Giving money away can sometimes feel like charity. What can I do by giving $20 other than feed someone once? It's a redistribution of resources. But when we give where we have a relationship and a partnership, this increases the collective power we have, and we can begin to change our society. This is what we've done in our new process. Charity doesn't fundamentally shift the power relations in our world, but organizing does. If we want to remake the world, we need to be a coalition member, a stakeholder, a co-dreamer. That takes vulnerability. Moving from only sharing our resource of money to building a relationship and trust is a way to begin. We make our voices heard with where we send all kinds of our resources, not just financial. In all we do, let us continue to believe that transformation is possible. Interdependence and mutuality are powerful antidotes to the lies of toxic individualism. Because we are interdependent, we know that all of us need all of us to make it. In our mutuality, we share this work together, creating a microcosm of welcome, which grows our capacity for love, for gratitude, and for hope. Take a look around. Take a look. Actually, maybe turn your head and take a look around. This is your microcosm, your center of power, your ecosystem from which to grow the world you dream of. Let's revel in the not small miracle that we're here together and take up this work in faith.
Like the tide, please rise and join in sharing your voice. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The land is holy, the land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The sun is shining, and so are we. The sun is shining, and so are we. The sun is shining, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The world is waiting. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be.
As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, please join me in speaking our shared intention. Extinguish this flame, but we carry the light, love, and commitment of this gathering into the days to come.
As we reach out, go and eat soup. Go and be blessed as you are a blessing. Amen.